There are new developments at this hour in Libya. Just a short time ago there, we learned of reports of at least 6 new explosions heard in the Libyan capital of Tripoli, suggesting a new round of airstrikes from coalition forces. This right now is a live shot of the Tripoli skyline, as you can see, after dark there. But anti-aircraft fire has been seen in the air over the last 30 minutes or so. There hasn't been much in the last 15 to 20 minutes. NBC's chief foreign correspondent is Richard Engel, and he is live in Benghazi for us right now. And Richard, I know you are a safe distance away from there, but if you can give us a sense of what you know about the newly intensified fighting happening in Tripoli.
Know very little about what's going on in Tripoli right now. I just came back from the eastern front here in rebel-controlled eastern Libya, and over the last 24 hours, Gaddafi's forces throughout this area have effectively collapsed. And it started out in Ajdabia yesterday when the troops that were in Ajdabia were destroyed by the air, by Western airstrikes. And today we could see just the extent of the damage caused by those Western airstrikes. 20, 30 or more armored vehicles and tanks completely obliterated. And it has allowed the rebels to just effectively drive on through. We went not only through Ajdabia, then we went on to Brega. After Brega, Ras Lanouf, and according to the rebels, they have already reached the town of Bin Jawed. So just in a day, they have pushed their front line forward more than 100 miles, and they are expecting a fight, but they're not exactly sure where it will take place. They think perhaps in the town of Sirte. But so far, these airstrikes have just cleared an amazing path for the rebels to walk through.
And it appears clear, obviously, Richard, that not only have they had the success in advancing these 100 additional miles now, but that Gaddafi's forces have backed up and essentially put up a wall around Tripoli and places closer to the capital of that country to try to say, if we're going to take our stand, this is where it's going to take place. Is that what the presumption is right now, leading up to what could be a significant fight between those forces?
There are two scenarios, and Gaddafi's forces were in Ajdabia in fairly large numbers, bigger numbers than I think most people expected, with dozens of armored vehicles there. Those vehicles were destroyed, and the rebels rolled through Ajdabia. There had been some street-to-street fighting in the town, which we saw the day before yesterday. Then after Ajdabia, there was really nothing. There was no one to be found, no one on the other side, so the rebels just kept advancing. There are two possibilities. One, that the Gaddafi forces are regrouping for a final battle, a defensive shield, in which they say that the rebel line will not advance any further, will not cross it. That is likely to be around the town of Sirte, which is a tribal bastion where a lot of Gaddafi's supporters live. So Gaddafi traditionally has support in that area anyway. The other theory is because of these airstrikes that Gaddafi's forces, the ones that are now not under his direct command and control, but are further spread out, have simply collapsed.
Richard, give us a sense. NATO today announced that it is taking control of this operation. I want to get a sense from you what that will mean for the rebel forces going forward and what their end game is. Who is in charge of these rebel groups if they are to have success? Is there any communication with any Western leadership in any way, or are they just still sort of a ragtag group of many pro-Gaddafi forces who've then come across the line and others who are just simply rebels who want to beat back Gaddafi himself?
They are still a ragtag force, but they are getting more organized by the day. We saw today flatbed trucks that we hadn't seen before collecting some of the tanks that were not destroyed by the airstrikes, doing it in a somewhat organized way. Surprisingly, they weren't taking the tanks to the front line. They were taking them back here to Benghazi to be repaired, they say, but also because the rebels are concerned if they go out toward the front with their own armored vehicles or armored vehicles that are now their own, that they will also be targeted from the sky by NATO airstrikes. There is a great concern as this change of command takes place. There has been a very intense sequence of events over the last 9 days, and the rebels are concerned that if you don't keep the pressure on now, they could lose their momentum. And they're worried if there is a European leadership or an international leadership or less of a clear military objective, that there won't be the same sort of pressure. The rebels feel they need a little more time. They need another week or so of heavy bombardment, and then they think they can reach Tripoli. And going back to your point, that is their goal, to get from here to Misrata, join rebels who are already in Misrata, and then march on Tripoli.
Yep.
And if the foot comes off the gas right now, they're not going to get there.
Richard Engel is in Libya for us in Benghazi tonight. Richard, thank you very much for that.